Alright, so got a new build to do here. It is, I have to figure out what the price is. I'm not the one that actually bought these components, but we're going to have a Ryzen 9 going into an X670 Aorus Elite. We have, the first time I've ever used one of these, an Aorus, this is a Waterforce X360. For the video card, we got ourselves on again, a Gigabyte 4080. Someone really likes Gigabyte. We have some DDR5, which hopefully won't be an issue. It's a 6000 megahertz. Let me see if I can get any more information on this. Not really a lot here. CL36, DDR5 6000. It says 16 gigs times 2, so I'm assuming this is going to be 32. We have a Ryzen 9 7950 X3D. Ooh, I need to up that. Write that down. 7950 X3D. Alright, we have a 2 terabyte 980 Pro. We got to make sure that the firmware is updated on this guy, because this is one of the ones that had that problem. And then, as far as the power supply goes, we have a Corsair RM1000x. And today we are going to be building this in a H9 Elite from NZXT. So let me grab a picture real quick, and then we'll go ahead and start getting this thing built. This is going to be my first time actually building in this. Oh yeah, there'll be plenty of room for that. My only concern when the guy came in, the owner came in, he said he had to get a different power supply because the one he originally ordered was no longer available. And I was concerned that this might require a like one of the, what are they called? SFX. There we go. But I think we're going to be fine. So, in this box, for this case, again, this is the H9 Elite. So, everything seems to be packaged pretty well. We do have a spot. This is interesting. Look at the top here. There's some acrylic that the fans and the actual radiator is going to screw into. So, hopefully that'll fit there. It's going to be interesting. Like, if you were ever concerned about airflow with this case, no need to worry. Plenty of airflow. Move screws, forcing SSD bracket open. So we have an RGB fan controller back here. And overall, this is a very large improvement compared to like some of their older cases. They used to tell every customer not to buy it. So at least they do a nice thing. They give you single-use containers, packaging. So, because this is always one of my biggest pet peeves is they give you single-use packaging, but at least they give you a Ziploc sealed little container. Why do I keep saying it? Package to store it in after you get done with your build. Because like we're gonna need maybe 5 of these screws in total. And then of course there's our little instruction manual, and right on the back is your motherboard installation instructions. So let's go ahead and button this panel back up. Yeah, that's nice. I think the screws might be a little bit overkill. I think the fact that these are magnetic is adequate. I don't think that's going anywhere. But I'm sure there's a reason they put these on here. First things first, let's look at... I'd say overall this is an improvement compared to what they used to do. And I think that's good. It's a step in the right direction for them. Let's take a look at the X670. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to check to see... I wonder if this... No, there's nothing going to be in here. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do a firmware update for that Not going to need that. SATA cables. We will take that out for the NVMe screw and the standoff, just in case we need it. And then Wi-Fi antenna. Oh, look at that. We'll use this. It's a little, like holder for the individual like cables that have to go into the motherboard to help make that process a little bit simpler for people who don't necessarily know where those little wires go. So I want to see if this Ryzen 9 7950 X3D is compatible right out of the box. We're going to go with yes. Seeing as that's the only BIOS revision available for this. I really wish they would print the initial BIOS revision on the board. But they don't. So I guess first things first, let's make sure there's no peels on here that we got to pull off. One of the nice things about this board that you see on a lot of boards nowadays compared to what they used to be in the past, it has the IO shield directly integrated into it. So what I was saying is it has the IO shield integrated into it, so you don't have to worry about fishing that into the case. You know we're going to be putting an M2 in here, so that's not going to work. There's our LTT screwdriver to get this open. So let's go ahead and grab this 980 Pro 2TB. Nice and installed. That's in place. And then, as a reminder, always peel the protection off of the thermal pad for the SSD. Wind up. So we got the SSD installed. And I'm going to do a firmware update on this right out of the box just to be safe. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab our Ryzen 9. This chunky thermal pad. This heat spreader that's on there is quite intense. Man. This is the first one of these, the X3D chips I've seen. That, like, the depth on this thing is actually crazy to me. So it's 4.5 millimeters thick, which is crazy. I don't think there's anything else I need to install in this right now. Set this off to the side. Next, we're going to pull out our cooler. We got to look at building that, and this is going to be my first experience looking at this. So we're going to compare this against my Corsair stuff that I normally recommend. All right, so let's take a look at this. We have a nice little instruction manual. So there should be one for AM5. We're going to go through there and verify what we need to do with that. So there's our cooler. Team up, fight on. Interesting. Got a little LCD screen here. So we're going to be mounted like this because we're going to have the cable. Basically, it's going to be set up like this. So all the cable and everything goes to the back. So this is what our setup is going to look like on there, and then we'll have our 3 fans. 3, so we got that. We're going to build this next because I always build these before I try and put them in the case. And this, it actually rotates. It's kind of nice. Alright, so let's get, something else I like about this. This has pretty sure there's just a screw underneath this. Move it down so you can see it. Yep. So we have a refill port. So in theory, you could drain this whole loop and refill this with your own liquid. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that because 9 times out of 10 they use a special liquid in there that's designed to also lubricate the pump and not just like water, like distilled water or like just cooling oil. All right, so we're going to use the principles of thermodynamics on this. These are all going to exhaust. All of them. So we got washers for the top of the case. We got our fan screws here. The This is Threadripper. We don't need to worry about that. So I'm confused about these. I'm gonna figure out what these are. These say radiator screws. So these are N. No, these are R. R screws are used for Aorus chassis model AC300G and AC300W only. So, not needed. Cool. Let's take out our fan screws. And then the way we're setting this up, we already kind of mocked this up. It's going to be set up like this. So we want all these cables pointing towards the rear. And then I'm using a little electric screwdriver here. Just speeds up things a little bit. And it also helps me prevent from stripping these things, because when it gets to enough tension, it just stops. All right, and we can already see what we're going to be dealing with here a little bit, which is a huge group of cables coming off the back, which I might try and zip tie like this, just to make this a little bit easier for management. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and zip tie these. Pretty decent space here to get this cable managed through, so I shouldn't have to worry about that, and it'll overall make this look a little bit neater and make it a little bit easier for me to work on. All right, so this is assembled. Now we're going to start putting stuff in the case. We're going to go ahead and install the motherboard, and then we're going to install the radiator. So first things first, we're going to need motherboard screws. And there should be just one more screw up here in this corner. Now, let's go ahead and install this radiator up top. A nice little peel to pull off here. I think there's a peel on the inside of this that we're going to take off here. Only problem with, like, I get why they did this and the concept behind this. It looks cool and whatnot. But my worry is over time this is going to yellow, and it's going to be a fingerprint magnet. But if you're careful with it, you don't have to worry about it. All right, and now we just got to be careful with this, because we are screwing these into acrylic. We just got to be slightly careful. Even though it's metal with acrylic, it's still acrylic. Two. All right, and that should be enough to hold it up. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these screws in. All right, that's in there. Lay this nice and flat. So this whole cable mess is going to go. Those are all back there. Next, we are going to thermal paste ourselves up here. That off of there. Always remove this. It even tells you, warning, remove before installation. We want to get pretty decent coating on this guy. That should all come out in the wash. Man, this cable arrangement is a little bit aggravating. All right, we get it on there nice and firm. We're going to use the I guess you'd call that the outside screws on this. Yeah, these pipes are going to make it difficult. All right. So we'll have to figure out where I'm going to run this for SATA power. It's more than likely going to be right through there. And then we also have a little USB connector. We're going to also run. Looks like it's going to be the same way. Why couldn't this be a USB-C? Why couldn't they do that for me? That'd be super nice, but of course it's not. All right. So we got our cooler installed. Everything's all tightened up. Next, let's go ahead and put our RAM in there. I really hope this RAM isn't going to have compatibility issues. And as usual, the motherboard tells you which slots to populate with these. In this case, it is not 1, it is 2, it is not 3, but it is 4. So we are going to go and 4. All right, so what we have next is power supply and video card, and this guy is basically ready to go. Let's get this flipped over and start worrying about the real headache of this whole build. It's going to be cable management. I'm going to start putting screws into our resealable Ziplocs here, so that way they don't get lost. And and the fact that I'm done with them, I don't have to worry about it anymore. They can get put away. And our power supply is going to be sitting here, so this actually works out as far as that's concerned. And most of the stuff will end up being like just hidden away, which is nice. So there we go. That's what we're looking like on the front. We're looking nice and clean. These cables need to come over here, and I have to make sure I turn off the monitoring for the CPU fan speed, because otherwise it's going to throw an error. We're not going to have anything directly plugged into that. All right, so next we're going to look at our power supply, which is fully modular. Figure out which cables we're going to need and which ones we're not going to need. We are going to take the screws from this and use these screws. So these are the cables that we're going to need for the remainder of this build. It's going to be a little bit different than normal, mainly because normally this will have to run to the bottom of the case. In this case, we are not doing that. We're going to be running to here. So it's slightly different. We'll start with the CPUs. So this Gigabyte card does come with something interesting, which is a little standoff that would go here, that would go to the video card. Problem is, this is in the way. Yeah, there's physically not a space to do that. So this guy's gonna have some GPU sag. All right, let's go ahead and get this lined up. That one in. That's our big guy. All right, time to put El Chunko in here. Can't imagine what the 4090 Ti is going to look like. So this one, we got ourselves a 4080. Okay. What I might end up doing is I might end up 3D printing a stand for this, seeing as there's no way that's going to be tall enough, and I can't use the provided bracket from Aorus in this case, unfortunately, because of the cable hide. So I guess we need to make sure we're doing all of our peels on here, because this one's going to have a couple. One. See, it's just a whoop. All right. Now for the most dangerous part of this whole build. Making sure that is connected. It's definitely connected. Now, there we go. And let's figure out how I can route this without it being dangerous. And no matter what I do, these cables just look terrible up here. But not really much you can do. Thanks to these high power connectors. Only option would be to splurge and get like one of the, like a power supply that actually has the cable for this already like as an option. But there's literally nowhere else to go with it because the power supply is located high up on the board. So my other problem is, you see how far this is sticking out? Like, I don't know if this is even this connector is going to clear this. We're gonna find out. Like, no matter what I do, it's just staying looking like a rat's nest because there's just so many cables. 1, 2. At least they're all layered. That's my big thing, is making sure they're layered, which they are. And that's what it's going to look like. So, as you can see, you can't really see. So it works out. Alright. Man, I wish there was just a little more metal on this case for me to hold on to. Moment of truth. F's in the chat if it doesn't post. Power on. We got a post. At least we got power. And we have life. Complete. Memory seems to be working fine. We need to go into the BIOS. All right, let's get Windows 11. All right, good. All right. 2 terabyte, and I have to remember I need to update the firmware. Now that this is all constructed, we're gonna install some software first off, and then second off, we are going to do some benchmarking. So right now I'm gonna run these tests and see what the scores come back as. (24/7). This is 24/7/9/4. So it tells me how good the actual graphics card actually is. That's it. We are done with this guy. Hey, thanks for watching that video. You can check out some of the other videos for more tech-related content. And if you want to catch me live, I am on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpecVengeance, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come hang out, chat, and maybe learn a thing or two. Thanks for watching.